morning.
Morning.
As we are at the midway point in Lent, these flowers are very unique because many times when we talk about our gardens and planting flowers, they require a lot of care. And you always see these flowers growing on the side of the road with no care at all, right? They just pop up wherever. And this flower is really a statement of where we should be in Lent. We should be strong, flourishing in the midst of adversity, flourishing in the midst of struggle. And if you squeeze these flowers, as you noticed as I was walking around, there's water on the inside. It's stored up on the inside. And the whole of our Lenten journey is really to store up spiritual strength for ourselves so that as we are being drawn on, that we have something to give to those around us. If you think about why sometimes you might feel spiritually empty, or when someone in the problems of life are pulling upon you and you feel like you just don't have any more to give, and you get frustrated, you get angry, and you feel like everyone is just clawing at you, it's because many times we are giving from our spiritual well on the inside. We're distributing this water that is in our stalks, and many times we deplete it without refilling it. And when we give more than we put in, we run empty. And when we run empty, we run into problems. And then we run into frustration, we run into exhaustion, and all those horrible things that happen when we run empty. We think about food. When you run empty on food, you become hangry. It's an actual term. And many times people have, blood issues and sugar issues and different things that happen when you're not properly eating. Our spiritual life is so much more complicated and so much more demanding. So the flower that you get today is a reminder that we have to soak up as much as we can of the spiritual life and the offerings of the church and the prayers and the sacraments of the church, so that when we are drawn upon and when the days become dry for us, that we have something to draw from on the inside, so that we're not taking this ladle and scraping a dry well inside our hearts and feeling that pain on the inside, but that we're able to overflow so that we can continually give water to those around us. There was a story of a monk who was learning obedience, and the abbot told him, he said, take this bucket and I want you to go water the flowers by the monastery, but you have to go from the well to the monastery. And he gave him a bucket and it had a hole in the bottom. And he said, go fill it up. And then the monk would go and he would walk. And as he finally would get to the monastery, there was only a little bit of water in this 5-gallon bucket because it all had run out. So he'd go back and he'd do it again, he'd do it again, he'd do it again. And he went to the abbot and he complained and he said, I walked back and forth 10 times. And the flowers are growing, but it's very difficult. And he said, yes, it's very difficult, but look what you did on the way. And he noticed that all the other plants that were planted along the trail had grown because of the water that was being slowly let out to the plants on the side of the trail. He said, now you've watered not only what you had to do, but also that which was on your path. We are called to water those around us, but we have to be full. We have to continue to fuel ourselves, otherwise we're not good to anyone. We don't do anything good for anyone, including ourselves. And you know what happens to flowers when they dry out, right? The petals fall off one by one by one. And there comes a point when a flower is dying where you say, it's got to go. For all those who receive flowers for Mother's Day, you have the bouquet. Hopefully you get flowers for Mother's Day. And you have it there and you watch it and you're still watering it, but it starts to die. And there comes a point where one too many petals falls off and you say, now it's time to go. And it's a slow death of a flower. Even these now are slowly dying. But we are called to take root in our faith. We're called to soak up that which is around us, and we're called to continually blossom. So even in the midst of fasting, we're called to blossom. We're called to grow, to become stronger, and to utilize the church's gifts to us to become better people on the other end. So when we say Christ is risen, that we too have changed and we've grown and become stronger. So we will give you these flowers today as a reminder, and you can see how long they last in your home and how long you can keep them going with all your little tricks and all the little things of, 7-Up in the water or sugar or whatever you need to do. And just remind yourself too that you have to continue to grow. You have to continue to become closer to God. Otherwise, we stall out and we start to wilt and fade and then ultimately die. So I pray that this Lenten season is a time for you to grow, to become stronger, to become sturdier, to have reserves in yourself so that when you are drawn upon, that you can help those around you, and that your Lenten season continues to flourish.